Good evening, and welcome to the Positional Sports Talk Show, live streaming on Facebook Live, Twitch, and our Positional Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. We are a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions on the hottest topics in sports this evening. My name is Big Reg. I'm joined this evening by my partners in crime. What's going on, J3? Glad to have you back, brother.
What's going on? Hey, everybody. Thanks for supporting us.
We got Ed in the building. What's going on, Ed? How you feeling this evening?
I feel blessed and ready to roll. Thanks for tuning in.
We got our post contributor, Sense, back in the building. What's going on, Sense? Good to see you, my brother.
Good to see y'all too. What you say, fellas? Let's get
What's up, Sense?
And we're going to be joined a little later by the professor. Professor Jay's actually in the building, working in the backgrounds, making sure the show runs well. But he will be joining us for the post takes. So this evening, we will talk about the Australian Open. Got to do our combat sports update, a little boxing and MMA. NFL off-season update, a little NBA. Of course, Professor Jay and his post takes. Some other topics that caught our attention in our final post of the evening. So we appreciate you tuning in. Do us a favor, sit back, relax, enjoy post on the Positional Sports Talk Show channel. So before we get into the Australian Open, fellas, we got to talk about the breaking news of the day. Early this morning, about a little after 7 o'clock this morning, Pacific Coast time, Tiger Woods was in a one-car accident on his way from his resort in California to a golf course. And unfortunately, in the accident, flipped, rolled his car several times, and is currently at one of the UCLA medical centers in surgery. And they say he sustained major injuries to both legs. So we got to keep Tiger Woods and his family and friends in our prayers and thoughts and hope that he comes out of this okay. And people talking about golf and he's going to be able to golf, forget that. I just hope that man comes out okay, can walk again, and be able to play with his children. And if he wants to play golf, he can play golf with his son, Charlie, and his daughter. So that's all I got to say. Y'all got anything to say on that before we get on to the show?
Prayers go out to him and his family.
Absolutely.
I hope he gets what I hope, speedy recovery. But what I hope doesn't happen is people start trying to sensationalize this story and try to read too much into it before all the facts of the crash comes out. Just give that man time to heal, give the surgeons and the doctors time to do their job. And then if Tiger chooses to reveal what happened or what he can remember, if anything, then that's on him. And we'll just go from there. Good well, Tiger.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's already been some speculation. What's great is I actually watched a little after 6 o'clock, the LA County Sheriff did a press conference with also the LA County Fire Department Chief. And they said that there was no obvious signs of impairment in any way for Tiger. So that was something that was out there already. They also said he was conscious when they arrived. They was able to communicate, and that the injuries weren't life-threatening, but they were severe. So we'll leave it at that. You put it well. And when Tiger's ready, if Tiger's ever ready to reveal more about that, he will let us know. Other than that, just keep him in his prayers, and we hope that he's able just to live a normal life, whatever that is, after this injury.
Yes, indeed.
So the Australian Open, man. I don't know about y'all, but a couple of days last week, I woke up at 3:30 in the morning so I could watch Serena and Naomi live. And I also did the same thing to watch the finals with Naomi Osaka against Jennifer Brady. So Naomi is a bad lady.
Serena 2.0.
Is a bad lady. I mean, it's winning the Australian Open. She beat Jennifer Brady in the final 6-4, 6-3. This was her fourth major, fourth on hard courts. So she's undoubtedly the hard court queen, for sure. She's won 2 U.S. Opens, 2 Australian Opens. But I think something happened during the pandemic, and we started to see that at the last U.S. Open, and we've seen it here, where Naomi's found herself. Not that she's just a tennis player, but she's found her voice and is at peace with herself. And that's scary for the rest of the women out there on the tour, because she kicking butt and taking names. So did y'all get a chance to check out any of the matches?
Yeah, well, I've told you this in private, but I'm a big time Naomi fan. I mean, that's who I roll with. But a couple things. First, I'm going to address what you just said. I think she is finally coming into her own. But let's not forget, Naomi is 23 years old. So she's still young. And unlike Serena, didn't have necessarily all the support system surrounding her, as far as that dad or that coach who was really in tune. And she had a big sister. Serena had her sister who she could actually, watch could go through the ranks. But anyway, I'm saying all that to say, yeah, I think you're right, Reg. I think that Naomi is finally coming into her own. But to the match. So a couple things about this match, and I'm going to do it in reverse. The one thing I will say is I think Serena is done as far as winning majors. And the only reason I say that is at 39 years old, and I know we have athletes now that are doing things. Tom Brady comes to mind. LeBron is starting to get up there in age. I know we have athletes that are playing at a championship level well into their 40s now, late 30s. But the difference between, let's just say, Serena and Tom, the difference between Tom Brady has 10 other people on offense that could cover up some of his limitations. Serena, in an individual sport that requires agility, quickness, and all the things associated with being just an athlete alone, not the mental side, because the mind is never going to necessarily diminish at this particular point at 39 years old. But I was watching that match and I was seeing Serena just could not move quick enough to get to some of those serves and some of those exchanges with Naomi. Nothing against her. Again, that's a semifinal and a major championship, so she dismissed a lot of people to get to that point. But once you got to Naomi, you actually saw the dominance and the younger athlete, the more powerful athlete. And saying more powerful and quicker against Serena is just almost like it's almost like against the law. It's like, what? But again, it's sports. It's all about father time or mother time, however you want to say it. I like the women and the men. We equal here. But anyway, I just didn't see if you was watching some of those serves that Naomi was serving. Serena didn't even move. She couldn't. I mean, Serena's used to doing that to people.
Yeah, but Naomi did the same thing to Jennifer Brady, so I don't think that's an age thing.
I didn't say that, because if you look at the scores, I think she beat Serena 6'3", 6'4", and then she beat Jennifer the opposite 6'4", 6'3". Right. So it was pretty much the same dominance. But I was just talking about the two queens of tennis as I see it. But getting back to Naomi, and I think even down in the first set, she was down 0-2. And 0-2, 1-6-3. Or was it
6-3? You're right.
6-3. Yeah. So, I mean, the passing of the torch, and it was really, I seen, like, if you watch the match, Naomi didn't keep a word. I mean, but Serena, she's always been vocal on the court, and it was like she was trying to hype herself up and get herself motivated. But even in her mind, I knew she was like, I can't. No matter what I do psychologically, physically, I can't match that. Yeah. So, and again, I'm not taking anything against a 39-year-old Serena, one of the most decorated, probably the second most decorated woman in tennis history. So definitely the most modern decorated woman. I didn't feel bad for her. I just think she can't hang with the likes of Naomi at this point. It's done. Now she could play another 3 or 4 years, get in the quarterfinals and semifinals, and that's fine. But if she plays Naomi, she's gonna lose.
Yeah, that's what I witnessed too, like an unspoken kind of changing of the guard. You even saw it in her post press conference when she teared up and left the conference. Like she kind of knew, like, wow, like I don't think I have it anymore. So I mean, I'm with you, Ed. I don't see her winning any more majors. If so, great, but like realistically, I don't see it.
As athletes, you have to know when it's time to let it go. And maybe this was a reality check for her. I mean, you shaking your head, Reg, but I'm just saying, bro, your body will tell you when it's time to let it go. I mean, just like Ed said, your mind might be like, yeah, I'm still ready to play. But if you ain't got it, you ain't got it. And it's okay because she has accomplished a lot. Keep that in mind.
I hear you. I just think that I already said this evening that Naomi's the queen of hard courts. I think Serena can win another Wimbledon. Naomi doesn't do well on surfaces where her footing isn't strong and grass is slippery. I think Serena's going to have an opportunity to win one more Wimbledon either this year or next year. And I think she will retire. She may retire after this year's U.S. Open. I think her and her sister, I think they have a pact that they're going to play through the Olympics, which is supposed to happen last year. It's supposed to happen this summer, that they're going to play doubles together in the Olympics one more time. Because remember, they won 2 gold medals in the Olympics as doubles teams. And then I think they're going to walk away together. But I still think she has a Wimbledon left in her. That's just me. But so y'all think it's now officially the Naomi Osaka era and the Williams sisters era is over?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Venus's era been over.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not trying. I'm not shooting shade.
No diss.
You read. It's just interesting. With that victory, Naomi becomes the 3rd winningest active major winner on the women's tour. The only 2 people ahead of her last name are Williams.
The only thing with Naomi that concerns me is, and again, she's 23. Although back in the day, 23 in tennis was like the prime. I mean, by the time you was 23, if you didn't have at least, well, she has 4 majors already at 23, but 23 was like a seasoned veteran. When you talk about these girls, girls meaning they were literally starting at 15, 14, right. 16.
Right, 19 and 20 was supposed to be peak, except for the greats, right?
Right. And so the only thing about Naomi is I wonder if she's going to have that drive, that necessarily drive as far as her fitness to stay where she needs to be. Because so far she has, but the money is different now. So
did y'all see how much money she made last year? She made the most money ever for a female athlete last year.
Right.
Wow.
And that's what I mean.
Now, part of that was the Olympics. Having that Japanese flag behind her, even though she's American as you can be.
Right.
But I mean, she made almost $40 million off the court.
Wow. Must be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's only certain athletes, once they start making that type of money, that can stay motivated enough to like constantly, accept the grind, want the grind, getting up early in the morning and whatever else it takes to, whether it's eating, sleeping or whatever. There's only a certain amount of athletes once they get that type of money, that are continuously motivated year in and year out. So I love Naomi. So hopefully it works out.
I'm hoping that the downturn that she had after winning the Open in 18 and the Australian in 19, where the pressure got to her, and then she fired her coach, went through a couple of coaches, wasn't enjoying herself. I think she's got the right team around her now. Nike's done a real good job getting the right team around her. She seems like she's having fun. And then again, like I said earlier, she seemed like she's found herself. And that's a big thing. Once you're comfortable in your own skin, you can do a lot of major stuff in the world because you don't care what other people say about you. She doesn't care. that people know who her boyfriend is. She had him on GQ with her on the cover shoot and all that. She don't care what you think. Did you hear that she made a comment about them replacing the Olympic president because of his comments?
I missed that.
She said, yeah, there's a new generation out there that's just not going to accept things like that and just people to say whatever they want to. So she doesn't care. She doesn't care anymore. So that's dangerous. So let's talk about the men. When you talk about the men, you got to talk about the king of Australia.
The Joker.
The Joker. Novak Djokovic. Winning his 9th Australian Open. I mean, people talk about Rafa Nadal with Clay and Roland Garros. This is Mr. Australian Open. He's never lost an Australian Open. He's been it 9 times and won 9 times.
That's
crazy.
So he's now up to 18 slams. He's won 6 of the last 10, and he's only 2 behind the big 2, Roger and Rafa. So my question to y'all is, Novak's 33, Rafa's an old 34 and a half, and Roger's 39, getting ready to be 40. Can the Joker actually catch and pass them to become the GOAT?
Well, if we measure the GOAT by championships, then yeah, he can easily do that. I can see that. But you know what's interesting, you mentioned that, Big Reg, is that some players just dominate certain courts. Like you just mentioned, if you just the 3 guys you just mentioned, like you said, Djokovic, he's the down under dude. Rafi, if you go into Roland Garros, that's his court. Wimbledon, that's Rogers. So everybody has a surface or an environment that they prefer. But Djokovic, he's 33. That's he has at least 5. 4 or 5.
3 to 5. Yeah.
So I still won't consider him the greatest though. I still like Roger. I like Roger better. I mean, but that's just my preference.
I mean, he's on pace too, and I mean, I'm loving watching it. Like he's been dominating. So yeah, I could definitely see him winning. On pace to become one of the greatest.
Well, Big Reg, you the tennis fan. What do you think?
Because he hit a sweet spot. He caught Roger when Roger was coming out of his prime. And before Nadal could figure out how to play on other surfaces. So his issue is he's just not a likable guy. He does some stupid stuff.
He's got arrogance about him. He
does some stupid things off the court. He tried to take over the ATP without Roger and Rafa's input, so they squashed that. He just, in the beginning of his career, he was the reason why he has the nickname the Joker is not that his last name is Djokovic. It's because he used to act a fool on the court and mimic Roger and Rafa and all that on the court. And so people didn't take him serious. So it's going to be hard for me to, unless he beats them, unless he gets like 24, 25, I'm hard. I got to roll with Roger. Roger just had that beautiful classic tennis.
Graceful.
Yeah, just, and he won on all 4 surfaces. He did his thing. The French Open was the only one he had a problem, but he finally got that. So I'm a Roger man. But if you get 24, 25, I got to buy down.
Yeah. Now, now you brought up something that's pretty interesting when we start talking about GOATs, Hall of Fames, etc. Do we attach greatness to how someone acts off the court or the field or in the arena, or do we just simply look at their performance in whatever field they choose to participate? Because when you start talking about, like greats and whether or not, and baseball is guilty of this. And that's what's one of the reasons that I have that I'm sour towards baseball as far as when they go about the process of electing their Hall of Famers. it seems to me that it's based on how are you well liked, or what have you done off the court. But we're not talking about what you've done off. We're talking about your athletic prowess, and that's why I asked you about Joker. Take all that nonsense and his antics out of the equation, and then that's when I ask you, okay, now judge him now, just purely from a tennis standpoint.
The only thing I would add to the game was the fact that a lot of his antics happened on the court. Now, okay, when Johnny Mack was doing it,
I was just about
some people loved it, some people didn't. But when Djokovic first started his career, he still acts up now and then. Remember, he got disqualified from US Open from hitting the linesman in the neck because he lost his tantrum and smacked the ball. So he still does stupid stuff. And then the fact that he tried to take over the whole tour and morph it to himself without getting other people,
Yeah.
So
okay, I feel you.
I let him go with the COVID stuff and having parties. I ain't worried about that. But on the court, he got some stuff in there.
I mean, but a few of the tennis greats, you just mentioned McEnroe. I mean, Agassi is guilty of that too. I mean, folks with personality. I mean, Serena. Some could say Serena has tantrums on the court.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So I guess to answer your question, Ed, it's more about what they done on the actual field or court that they're playing on, and not the character outside of the environment.
Right.
Yeah, what you do in your home life and all that, I could care less. That's on you. But what you doing in the sport that affects the sports, I factor that in. That's how I see it. Let's move on to combat sports, fellas. We got some boxing to talk about. Woo! I tried to tell y'all for a week or so, Oscar Valdez against Miguel Berchelt had all the makings of a barn burner. Now, wasn't quite a barn burner. That's because Valdez put on a masterclass boxing exhibition. He became the ultimate boxer puncher, and he put on a show. And for anybody who hasn't seen that knockout, YouTube Valdez Berchelt.
Nah, don't you don't want to see that. It's barbaric. You don't want to see that. It's barbaric.
The last second of the 10th round, the actual very last second, he hit him with that left hook.
Good night, Irene.
But Big Reg, if you watch the fight. The way I looked at the fight, he used 2 punches to beat him. He slid an uppercut in there periodically, but Valdez, that left hook, it was doing so much damage for so long, for so many, well, except for the 6th and 7th. But even at the end of the 7th round, because I think it was a 10-round fight. I think that the champion, Michelle, I think he won the 6th clearly. And then the 7th it could have went either way because Valdez really didn't do nothing until the end of the 7th. Right. But at the end of the 7th, I think that's when it clicked. If it didn't click already, Valdez was like, okay, he can't beat me. There's nothing he could do to beat me.
Right.
So, but that left hook, and I don't understand why the champion, Michelle, I don't know why he wasn't doing it. It was like he knew it was coming because he had no defense for it. Like no, he just kept bam, and then that jab. And how can a shorter man, the shorter fighter, he was getting in with the jab all night. I didn't see no resistance to that jab.
Speed and footwork. Speed and footwork. And what was crazy, I don't know if y'all caught in the pregame stuff. They were both Mexican fighters. They actually lived like 3 blocks from each other.
Oh wow!
They came up in the amateurs together. Berchelt had always been mad / envious of Valdez because Valdez made the Olympic boxing team 4 years before he tried, and then the year he was trying to, Burchell says they gave Valdez the Olympic spot over him, even though he was the number one fighter in Mexico. So they've had beef since teenagers. And then the Mexican president was behind Burchell.
Yeah.
Valdez is boxing idol Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. Came out and said he thought Burchell was going to win because a lot of people in that follow Burchell. This was Burchell's 7th defense of his title. He'd been walking through people, destroying people. But Valdez said, I can beat him. Everybody can be against me. I'll show you. And he put on a show. I mean, he knocked him down in the 4th, hurt him again in the 5th, hurt him in the 9th, and then put his literally lights out in the 10th. And what did you tell me before the show? Ed, what do you think happened?
I thought he died. I swear, because if you see, because the knockout occurred maybe like a second or two left.
1 second left in the round.
And when he hit him, it's not that he went down, but then when he was down, he was face down, and they flipped him over. When they flipped him over, there was no movement. There was no signs of life.
Nope.
Even the announcers was like, "We need some medical attention," because it was bad. It looked really bad. I honestly thought at the minimum he was going to be in a coma. Like, okay, if he wasn't dead, he was going to be in a coma. But get back to the fight though. It was so much a crowd against Valdez that the announcers, I think it was Timothy Bradley, and it was the brother from Oakland. What's his name?
Andre Ward. Yeah.
They were being critical. If you listen to the fight, they were being critical in the earlier rounds, thinking that Valdez was expending too much energy. But if you look at the scorecards, because they had Andre Ward's, they was using his unofficial scorecard.
Right.
But if you looked at his scorecard, he gave every round to Valdez, even as he was criticizing him. And I'm not going to say criticizing him, but he was saying, well, you shouldn't be doing this. He's expending too much energy. Burchell, he's getting ready to start putting it on. He's just sizing them up, whatnot. And I'm like, okay, well, he better start putting some pressure on that the little Valdez, because if not, he ain't gonna have a chance. And that left hook, like I said, it was never stopped. I mean, did you see him stop that left hook at any moment, Big Red? I mean, did you guys see at any moment that left hook stopped? So, and Valdez was so smooth and he got so confident that he kept switching from southpaw
to orthodox. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, he was just because he knew he couldn't do anything with
him at that point.
But I just thought it was funny how it was like the first half of the fight, probably up until the 5th or 6th round, the commentator, especially Bradley, and he was like, oh, Valdez, this, the champ, this, because Valdez wasn't the champion. That was for Jemele. How do you pronounce that guy's name?
Burchell.
That was for his belt.
Yeah, because Valdez was actually the featherweight champion, and he was coming up to junior lightweight to win his second title in another division. So yeah, that was great. But it sets up a possible huge matchup, fellas. At the end of the fight, after all said and done, they was interviewing Valdez, and Valdez said, I just want to go home, be with my family, because I had to quarantine to train for this and all that. But he said, I heard that Shakur Stevens said he wanted me. So let's make that happen. So you're going to have 2 Olympic boxing fellas, both former champions at 126 that are now fighting at 130. Both under the top ranked banner, so it shouldn't be any issue of making that fight. We can have a hell of a fight sometime this fall. So I'm looking forward.
Yeah, but are we gonna see it? That's the question.
Yeah, because Bob Arum. You don't see
That's
it.
the question. Are we gonna see it?
Come on now.
I think we can see this fight.
We hope.
Yeah. Oh, the co-main event. I don't know if y'all caught the co-main event. And just real quick on this, Gabriel Flores Jr., who's another up-and-coming prospect, who also fights at junior lightweight. He put on a nice boxing piece. He knocked out Jason Velez, who's 29-8-1. So no chump with 21 knockouts. He knocked him out in 6 rounds. So here's another young, up-and-coming Mexican-American. He's from California. So the junior lightweight is, heating up.
I love to see it.
There was another fight card on. This was on Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
Your boy Adrian the Problem Broner.
AB.
That dude, man, just go away.
After being out of boxing for 2 years, after losing to Pacquiao, that was his last fight. This is depending on who you talk to, controversial loss to Pacquiao. I think he actually lost some fights, he throwing enough punches. But what did y'all think of AB's performance? I'm gonna save mine to last, because I don't want to, poison the views.
So let me just go ahead and start off with this real quick. AB did not throw a lot of punches in 10 rounds. I mean, what was it, 10 rounds or 12? I'm sorry.
12
rounds. Yeah. I mean, they gave him, they said he lost the first 5 rounds and then he ended up winning the last 7. But I don't agree with that. I think AB, he was in the ring, but he really didn't look like he was in the ring, in my opinion. He was more defensive than he was offensive. So for them to give him that decision, I'm like, well, what were they watching?
Well, full disclosure, I wrote him off a couple years ago. I don't. No, seriously, he's a mess. I don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see it since?
I didn't, but then I heard of his post fight antics and his his interview, and in typical Adrian Broner fashion, just had to show his behind. So
yeah. Adrian Broner is broke.
Surprise!
What, he ain't about billions? Like his
About billions is broke. One of the reasons this fight happened, he owes a young lady $855,000 court ordered, and he had a hearing in December, and he's going to get locked up again if he ain't come up with that money. For the past several months, the owner of PBC, Al Heyman, and the 130-pound champion, 135 contender, Gervonta Tank Davis, has actually been paying for his living expenses. Here's a man that's been making millions of dollars in his short. He's only 31. He was a champion at 23.
Yeah.
So in 7 years, he's blown tens of millions of dollars. And now he's fighting to stay out of jail. It's just a shame.
After that fallout with Floyd, he was never the same.
That's what I'm saying. If he would have just did before. See, people look at Floyd and they look at his lifestyle and his flash and all that, but Floyd stay in the gym. He knows how he gets paid. And so, I mean, he's retired at this point, but still, Bruner's he was never, he loved the fame, but he, what is that thing you always say, boxing, you can't cheat boxing. What is that term? You can't cheat the game or whatever, but he loved the accolades and all the things that go with boxing, but I don't think he liked the grind of boxing. Yeah,
you can't play boxing. You got to be all in 100%, especially at that elite level that you're supposed to be. And the sad thing about it is he has elite talent.
Yes.
Yeah. Because didn't he win like 4 different divisions?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's won titles 130, 135, 140, and 147. Even though that 147 is a little suspect, but he won it. So we're gonna give him that. but he said he want to fight at 140, but this fight was at 147. If you want to fight at 140, get to 140.
Yeah,
So,
I don't see it. I don't see it.
For all the Broder lovers out there, I just don't see it. I hope he gets his life in order. And if he wants to keep fighting, keep him fighting. That seems to be the only way to keep him out of jail. But it doesn't look good for the ending portion of this.
I mean, they call him the Can Man.
I felt sorry for his opponent. Because he definitely got robbed.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Mr. Santiago, Giovanni Santiago, he outworked Broner easily 7 out of 12 rounds. I can probably give him 8. They took a point from him for punching after the one of the rounds. I think it was the 5th round, but Broner hit him after the round. He just hit him better. So.
Well, I will say this though, even though they only took a point from him, they could have took a couple more, because if you actually watch that fight like I did, he kept hitting below the belt quite a few times, and the referee never said anything.
You can't take a point if they don't say anything.
I understand, but I'm just saying, if the ref was doing his job, he probably could have took a couple more.
I'm with you. And just to wrap up boxing real quick, for you lightweight fans, the unified champion Teofimo Lopez has put the boxing world on notice, including his own promoter Top Rank, that they need to make the fights that he wants to fight. He says he wants Tank Davis. He says that he wants
Bud? No, not Bud.
He don't want nothing to do with him.
The other titleist who has the actual WBC belt, Devin Haney.
Haney.
He said he's only going to fight maybe 1 or 2 more fights at 135 before he moves up to 140, but he only wants to fight big fights. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets his way as the new king of that 135-pound weight. And last but not least, for MMA, one of the big MMA weekend, I got to give a shout out to my man, Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis was in a heavyweight fight with Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is a dangerous man. He hit him with a left hook. Oh, my. Talking about getting knocked out. He was out before he hit the canvas. And then he hit him with 2 more, left and right. So, God, I love UFC. Whew. Got a big fight coming up March 6th. Big card, 2 championships. Now let's turn to the NFL. You got 2 big things that happened between our last show. First, the NFL salary cap floor was established that it's not going to be any lower than $180 million, which is up from the original agreed upon $175 million. So the NFL has put an extra $5 million, and the actual final salary cap will be determined, I think, before March 13th, which is the league year, March 17th, I believe it is. But they're estimating it's going to be somewhere between 180 and 185. Now, that's still going to be down from the 198.2 from 2020. So the cap is actually going to drop, which is going to be some issues for a lot of teams trying to manage this. So we will see. I think we're going to see a bunch of Professor J sent this to me. I think we're going to see a bunch of players opt for 1-year deals, hoping that the following year the pandemic is past us or under control, and more people can get into the stadiums and the salary cap goes up. Also, you're going to see a lot of teams that are going to lowball a bunch of veterans out there and only offer them lowball 1-year deals because of salary cap. But the biggest news was your boy Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz got his wish, got out of Philadelphia, was traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2021 third-round pick and a conditional second-round pick in 2022, which if Wentz plays 75% of the offensive snaps, upgrades to a 1, or if he plays 70% and they make the playoffs, upgrades to 1. So what do y'all think about your boy Carson getting out of Philly and getting to the Colts?
Here's my problem with this whole thing. I'm gonna give you two different categories, and I want you guys to answer this a simple question for me. You have Wentz, Brady, Stafford, right? Wentz, Brady, Stafford. They wanted out of those certain situations. They didn't get franchised. Deals were worked out. In Brady's case, they said, okay, well, you could just walk. We're not going to franchise you. You could just walk, right? On the flip side, you got Russell Wilson. He had to almost threaten to leave Seattle. hold on to get a contract. You got Dak. He's still dangling in the wind, even though Jerry Jones clearly saw what would happen if you don't have a Dak Prescott on your team. Yep. And then you got Deshaun. He's just flanging. They're not even talking right now. So why is it that you have white quarterbacks that if they cry or if they want out or they can make a deal, it's done. And you got the black quarterbacks that literally have to beg, scratch, and scream to either get a deal or to get out of a bad situation. What's going on, fellas?
Hey, well, we just call it what it is. I mean, we'll say it because we've said it enough on this show that you're just seeing the proof coming out in real life. As a matter of fact, this is what irritated me even more about this young man heckling Cam Newton at a camp that he sponsored to bring that little jerk into. But let me tell you, these quarterbacks, they did the comparison. Carson Wentz had the worst QBR in the league last year, but yet his contract was terrible, but yet they can get him out of town. But then you look at a guy in Cam Newton whose QBR was better than his. It wasn't great, but it was better than his. And yet this guy just came off a $1 million contract. He was sick half of the year. But if you compare the beginning of his year to the beginning of Carson Wentz's year last year, there's no comparison. But then you got a young man down in Texas clearly on a plantation. And now that he's fed up with it, look, their good old boy got up out of there. J.J. Watt is a free agent. But now all of a sudden, you got a quarterback who then showed you how life is down there, even toted the water for them, even when the owner that was alive back then said his little thing about the asylum. Asylum thing. And he's still, and people I know, they like, he took the money. But let me tell you this, and let's put a real life spin on it. I don't care what kind of contract or what you're being paid where you are. If you're being treated less than what you are and you're ready to get up out of there, none of y'all that criticize him would say a thing about his decision on wanting to leave that particular area. But it is what it is. You gotta kick, stomp, and scream as a black quarterback in order to get even a sniff of even anything that you ask for. But let it be anybody else, and they can just move right along and get to somewhere else. Go ahead, Big Reg, because I got more to say.
Yeah, before y'all jump in on this, I just want to talk about the contract thing, because a lot of people are saying, well, he just signed a contract for 4 years. Let's understand that. Deshaun Watson was in his 3rd year. They already exercised his 5th-year option. So they were going to control him for 2 more years before he signed that contract. And then they had the option of franchising him 2 times. So they could have controlled him for 4 more years. He made a good business move to sign the bigger contract so he could control how much money he was going to earn and also get that no trade clause so he could determine, okay, once I get this contract, if they don't act right, they traded my best friend, who was also one of the top 3 receivers in the league. The coach doesn't know what he's doing. Then they made him the GM. They got a chaplain that they brought in who's now running football operations, and now he's the GM. I'm out of here. He just made a smart business move. I can control how much I made and where I'm going to go when I'm ready to get up out of here. So that's all I got to say about the contract.
I agree with you. Not one of us on here wouldn't have signed that contract for all that money that he was making. But the thing is, you said the word is control. When we want to exercise control of our own careers, we're demonized as the bad guy, the bad woman, whatever you want to call it. But when they do it, oh, he just exercising his ability to get out of town, to go to the situation that he want to go to, and all that kind of stuff. But why can't the same narrative be said about just the position, about a guy that's leveraging his power to get exactly what he wants? You're either going to build a team around me, or you're going to let me go somewhere where they are going to build a team around me. I mean, Brady left New England and got a team built around him and just won a Super Bowl. When have you seen that happen for a black quarterback?
Well, look at Carson Wentz's situation. This bum, look, you can stretch it back to North Dakota State. He's so his whole body of work is so flawed, it's not even ridiculous. Let me give you a quick rundown of what I'm talking about. Hurt in college, which wasn't even at it was at a sub-division 1 level. Mm-hmm. So he was hurt in college, managed to leverage a little bit of success into a first-round draft pick. He ended up being in Philadelphia, hurt again. So he's been hurt his entire time in Philadelphia, but yet they rewarded him with the contract similar to what Deshaun has right now. But the narrative of him getting out of town, you didn't even hear nothing, not a peep about, oh, well, he signed the contract. He's taking control of his career. He went into he got a coach fired. he got a coach fired. He doesn't like competition. We saw that. He couldn't handle Nick Foles being there, got rid of him. He couldn't take that. They drafted Jalen Hurts, clearly, so he can't handle competition. He went to the Indianapolis Colts, where they have nobody on the roster that could even remotely challenge him for a job. Nope. So, and because Jacoby Brissett is a free agent, that's why I say that. So, it doesn't make any difference. Like I said, it's like you said, Professor J. The narrative on black quarterbacks, when they want to control their narrative, I mean, their destinies is one way, as opposed to these other quarterbacks. And you see it every year. It comes up time and time again, where the black quarterbacks, they literally have to go in like ignorant mode to get what they want. It's not necessary. And now look at Seattle and Russell Wilson. They just 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, he signed that lucrative deal. But if you remember, when he signed that deal, he was like, "Look, trade me. If you don't want to pay me, trade me." At the last minute, they signed that contract, and now he's right back at the drawing board because he witnessed Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and was saying, "Hey, wait a minute, how can I get person? I'll never make it to 43, let alone 40." Playing behind a porous line, and we all know, we've talked about it on this show many times. He's never had an offensive line ever. So
just why he scrambles so much.
Man, you can even assign this to even what they're doing to Teddy Bridgewater. His only weapon was most of the season. Now you already throwing him away, and he ain't really got a real chance with any right weapons around him in Carolina. So how in the world was that his fault? But yet he gets assigned that. But you're going to tell me Sam Darnold deserves as much press as he's getting right now? Dude is a straight bum. But he gets more press this week about his impending free agency than most of the better black quarterbacks that are out there right now. And I'm just dumbfounded by it. I just don't get it.
Well, man, they get ready to hand the keys to Mason Rudolph to an all-time historic franchise in the NFL, and he can't complete a forward pass. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. So, speaking about, the QB carousel, I think Deshaun, the Texans really believe Deshaun is going to back down and show up for training camp.
It ain't happening.
Good luck.
Yeah, they got the wrong dude.
Yeah,
they need to talk to some people because he will sit out and you know what he'll do? He'll sit out till maybe, I think you have to report by week 10. He'll sit out till week 10. Then he'll show up and say, "I'm injured," so he can get his accrued year and then move on. So
And this is actually the perfect time to pull this kind of move because of exactly what's going on with several black quarterbacks around the league being undervalued and underappreciated.
Yep.
That brings us to the other big black quarterback that's been undervalued for 3 seasons now, Dak Prescott. Today is the beginning of the NFL franchise tag period. It lasts from today to March 9th. So they basically got 14 days, 2 weeks to decide who they're going to tag. Does Dallas tag Dak again? And if you Dak, do you play on the tag at $37.7 million? Because if you play on the tag this year, they can't afford to bring you back next year because they'd have to pay you 40% of the $37.7. That's over $50 million. So you become an unrestricted free agent next year.
Well, you said it, Big Reg, at the opening of our NFL segment. The salary cap is shrinking. So I don't know if his son Jones or he Jones, whatever, you got to be a complete fiscal idiot to put him on another franchise tag, and he's going to take a larger percentage of your cap money. So unless you get a deal done with him, you might as well let the man walk. I mean, yeah, he's coming off of an injury, but I truly believe that it is the wrong move to franchise him again, not only from an organizational standpoint, but from a decency standpoint, that you need to just get a deal either signed with him or just let him know just point blank that he's not your quarterback of the future. I would love to see Dak in a different uniform. Think he would thrive better on at least 3 or 4 other teams. But yeah, that answers your question. They should not do another franchise tag on him.
But I think you want to know, should he sign it? I say yes. And just because of what Professor J just said, I would sign it. I'd be like, you know what? I'd put the onus back on the team. I was like, okay, it's only $180 million. So I'm going to go ahead and sign this 37. I know you can't franchise me next year. And heck, I might not even be ready to play this year. So you can give me 37. I ain't really right yet.
Man, we on it tonight.
Yeah, you can do it. I would definitely sign it. To answer your question, I would definitely sign it because, like I said, all right, you don't want to do it. Well, I'll just play hardball because you're either going to pay me now or someone else, or pay me later. But you won't pay me later because I'm not going to be here for you to pay me later. Yeah, so like I sign it. Just it's 37. What minus 80? Now you got what? You ain't got much left.
Yeah.
So, what would you sign? What would you do, Big Red? What would you do?
I wouldn't sign it to the very last day that I could sign it. I'd be petty that way. Because once they put the tag out there, that holds the money up.
Right.
So that means they frozen that money so they can't do anything else with it. And then I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of coming in the camp and doing all them things after you treating me that way. So I'd sign it on the very last day, get my 37.7, and if I'm at 110%, I'm not playing.
Didn't they have a problem with signing Zeke also?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Zeke was still under contract for 2 more years. His regular contract had 2 more years on it, plus he had a 5th-year option.
You resign everybody else to big contracts.
But the quarterback.
Mm.
And the thing about Dak is he does everything right. You never hear about him. I mean, you just never hear about him. He doesn't. He's not at no parties. You know, I don't know. I don't know what they expect. I don't know what they want in Dallas, but I do know it doesn't look like Dak.
I hear you. Mm-hmm. Last thing is, anybody else out there that y'all think might get hit with the tag? Does the Bucs have Chris Godwin and Shaquille Barrett out there? Barrett played on the tag in 2020. Some of the other big names out there: Allen Robinson with the Bears, Kenny Galladay with the Lions, Cam Robinson left tackle with the Jaguars. Leonard Williams with the Giants. You got Shaquille Griffin with the Seahawks. And then right here in our local area, you got Brandon Sheriff, who actually made All-Pro this year.
I think Galladay is going to get tagged, and maybe
I was just about to say that Galladay
and maybe Robinson in Chicago.
They may let Robinson go, but definitely Galladay because
they gotta keep Robinson. They gotta keep him because you need a
they ain't got nobody
receiver with whatever quarterback that you bring in there. They got to keep Robinson. They got to.
Same situation in Detroit, but I'm only saying Robinson because I hope Washington gets him.
See you.
Last football tidbit. Did y'all hear there was a couple of articles bouncing around today that Jeff Bezos has been connected to the 3 minority owners for the Washington football team?
No, I haven't heard that one.
And that he's already put it out there that since he's retiring from a full-time position at Amazon, that he's looking to purchase an NFL team. So
they won't let him in. They won't let him into that circle.
Man, I've been having that thought in my head for the longest time because I've been wanting Snyder to sell that team, and I'm like, who would be the best person to that Snyder couldn't say no to? Jeff Bezos.
They not gonna let him in.
Yeah, why? I want to hear why.
He has too much money. He
can buy the league.
He's too powerful. Like he wouldn't listen. Jerry Jones might have 10 billion, maybe. I don't know. Jeff Bezos has 175. He got too much money. He'd be too powerful for the NFL. He has more money in the league probably. So they're not going to let him in.
We'll see.
I just want anybody to buy this team.
Let's not. Yeah. Get Snyder out of there.
I don't care.
All right, we're gonna hit the
NBA yet.
No, they definitely ain't gonna let him in.
Yeah, he ain't got that kind of money.
Nah, he got to pair up with some other millionaires to even come close.
Well, what the heck is he doing? I mean,
They tried. Remember?
Right.
They tried to get the Panthers, Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. And they said, you ain't got enough money, son. You got,
I remember
you gotta
that.
grow up a little bit. Yep.
Your money too young. See me when it gets older.
Yeah, that's why he made the affiliation with the NFL, to do the halftime stuff and all that, to do some of the marketing so he could network with the owners and all that. So the next time he would be able to possibly, bring together a stronger group and maybe they'll let him in. So I don't see that happening.
They already got one minority owner. That's enough. They're not having. I'm just saying. They already had the Jacksonville Jaguars. He took care of all that. Yeah. So
this is why I feel like the XFL need to be a stronger player when it comes back.
I hear you. Some real quick things on the NBA. Lakers are struggling. I know you're a little concerned, Sin, so we're going to get on this. We're going to have you back in a couple of weeks. We're going to get on this. But with Anthony Davis hurt, your boy Dennis Schroeder out due to contact tracing for COVID, Lakers are struggling.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I can't even say nothing to that. We need some help.
Well, help might be on the way.
What about Boogie?
Houston Rockets are releasing center DeMarcus Cousins today.
Yep,
and rumor is that he's supposed to be coming back to LA to give him another bid.
Well, I heard another report from Brad Turner saying that that might not happen from some multiple sources close to the situation. They might be looking at Hassan Whiteside to bring in via trade.
I like him better.
That would be better because he's a more lively body. So
more athletic too. Yeah,
because Boogie ain't blocking no shots. Boogie ain't that right now. He ain't
gonna stay healthy either.
Nope.
He ain't gonna stay healthy either.
Yeah, we got to give some quick credit to the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, their 6-game West Coast trip, going 6-0 and beating Lakers, Clippers, and Jazz without KD.
They should
without KD.
Harden and Kyrie. I mean, come on, man.
Well, that's because Kyrie assigned James Harden. He said, "You're the point guard.
He said, "You're the point guard." He stepped back.
He's the coach.
And what has James been doing since then? Averaging 23, 11.5 assists with 8.5 rebounds. James Harden is the unsung hero of that team. He decided he was going to check his ego, and he was going to do the grunt work.
Kyrie
to be Kyrie.
Yeah, Kyrie
gonna have to do something.
They trying to cakewalk to a championship.
I was getting ready to say that's the only way he's gonna be able to get to the NBA finals. He's gonna have to sit back and let somebody else do it so he can get to where he want to be. I mean, that's the only thing that's hurting him from really trying to get into the Hall of Fame. If you look at his stats, I mean, the boy can play, but he don't have no hardware.
Yeah, but the last few years at Houston, he's been playing solo hero ball. So, I mean, it didn't look like he was trying to, play team ball, but I guess he ain't had any trust in anybody in Houston. Because the way he's playing now in Brooklyn compared to the way he was playing in Houston, and he had some of his boys with him. He had Chris Paul with him for a couple of years. Then he had his boy Westbrook with him last year, and he still wasn't. Yeah. So that tell you a lot.
Net Schmitz.
I mean, okay.
Yeah. And talking about player empowerment and how people see when black athletes try to take control of their situation. Did y'all catch Draymond Green's post-game conference when he went off about what's going on in the Cleveland with Andre Drummond?
Right.
And especially Andre Drummond, but also in Detroit with Blake Griffin, where the team has sacked the players because they decided they wanted to trade them.
Right.
But if a player says he wants to get traded and he wants to sit, then there's a problem. So, yeah, it's just not black quarterbacks. I think it's a black athlete.
Absolutely. And as you'll see very shortly, it goes back many, many years.
That is a great segue, Professor. It's time for your post takes, my brother.
All right, let's get down with the get down. We got the true black history facts and sports for you right now, and I'm guaranteeing you you're gonna learn something tonight. All right, so let's start out with number one. W.E.B. Du Bois versus Booker T. Washington in sports in 1968. Yes, I'm talking about Jesse Owens versus Dr. Harry Edwards. By the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico City, Jesse Owens was an official on the United States Olympic Committee. He was still very well respected, but many of the civil rights and sports icons of the movement considered him an Uncle Tom. The original boycott of 1968 Olympics was led by Dr. Harry Edwards. Even still, he acquiesced a little because of the leaders like Dr. King, and the stage was set for athletes like Tommy Smith and John Carlos to set the stage for dominating performances and a huge statement of Black pride, justice, and equality. John Carlos famously stood up against Mr. Owens in a team meeting when Owens warned of any shenanigans at the games that would surely cost them jobs and notoriety back home in the U.S. And Edwards had the same goal in mind, just different ways of achieving that particular goal. So you definitely need to do some more digging on that, and I'll be happy to have any conversation with people on that. But Jesse Owens by that time was looked at as sort of an Uncle Tom. Okay, next one. Formerly of ESPN, Jemele Hill, currently with The Atlantic, was half of the black duo that made history on ESPN in 2017 as the chief anchors to the flagship cast of SportsCenter, dubbed SC6. She and Michael Smith had a dynamic, fresh, and flavorful chemistry together. As the former host of ESPN's His and Hers, this was a valiant attempt to pull a substantially younger and diverse audience. Spencer Hayward is the only African-American player in professional basketball to win an Olympic gold medal in 1968, high school championship, Pershing High in Detroit, junior college standout, Trinidad State Junior College in Colorado, ABA Rookie of the Year and MVP for the Denver team, and NBA champion for the Lakers in 1980. He finally was inducted, and I do mean finally because it was a long time coming, inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2015. He is best known for the Supreme Court ruling that abolished the 4-year rule after high school before turning pro. His landmark case in 1970 would pave the way for exceptional athletes to jump from high school to the pros, the one and done culture, and any other non-traditional way of becoming pro after college.
And then they call that the hardship rule?
They called it the hardship rule, but this next collective bargaining that's coming up, they're pushing to get it named the Spencer Hayward rule. So stay tuned for that.
Nice.
All right. The 1948 Olympic Games in London saw a first of epic proportions. Not only was Alice Coachman the first African-American woman to win gold in these games, but she was also the only American woman to do so this year. She won her gold in the high jump with a leap of, check this, 5 feet, 6 1/8 inches. This allowed her to become an instant celebrity and became the first African-American woman to endorse an international product. This was the Coca-Cola Company in 1952. The first black male spokesperson for Coke was Jesse Owens. Next up, Emlyn Tunnell was the greatest defensive back in his generation. Nicknamed the Gremlin, he was the first black player to integrate the New York Giants. Throughout his illustrious career for New York and Green Bay, he was a machine on defense, amassing 9 Pro Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pros, NFL All-Team honors, and 2-time Super Bowl champion, and was the first African-American to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1967. He is considered only the 3rd black assistant coach or head coach of the NFL, of an NFL team, behind French Pollard, who I talked to you about a couple of weeks ago, and Lyle Perry. Texans Part 1. George Taliaferro and Buddy Young were the first 2 black players to integrate a Texas college or pro team. Originally drafted by the New York Yanks, the team was bought and sold and quickly moved to Texas after their first year. Under Jim Crow laws of the time, black players were prevented from taking the field on white teams. This was bucked by the owner, and they both played. Because of the nasty and hateful state of the country, and this state in particular, the move eventually crashed and burned. This franchise eventually became the Baltimore Colts, where both gentlemen thrived. Buddy Young's final crowning achievement would come as the NFL's first black NFL executive holding the title of Director of Player Relations at the league offices. Ann Gregory rose before Althea Gibson. In 1956, 7 years before Althea would be unleashed on the pro circuit of women's golf, Ann Gregory became the first African-American woman to make waves. She was dubbed the Queen of the Negro Women's Golf. She was top ranked in the United States Golf Association, the premier black golf circuit. She broke through racial barriers by being the first black woman to enter a United States Golf Association sponsored event with the U.S. Women's Amateur Championship. At the age of 76, check this, y'all, the age of 76 in 1989, she won a gold medal at the U.S. National Senior Olympic Games. She won by 44 strokes. Woo! Yeah, 76. All right, next up, to the ice. In 1958, my man Willie O'Reilly began his Hall of Fame NHL career with the Boston Bruins. He was the first African-American to take the professional ice. O'Reilly was introduced to hockey in Canada, where his grandparents fled the horrors of slavery in the United States. There was no denying his love for the national pastime of Canada. He is considered the Jackie Robinson of pro hockey. He has inspired countless African-Americans up to this date, from the little leaguers to amateurs and to the pros. Next up, we got Wilma Rudolph, the first African-American woman to win 3 gold medals in a single Olympics, achieving this feat in 1960. And finally, in 1962, the NFL's Washington franchise was the last to integrate its pro football team with the debut of legendary number 49, Bobby Mitchell. Better late than never. 1983 inductee into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And these are your takes for this week. Back to you, Big Red.
Just a little side note about Mr. Mitchell. My wife's mother, God rest her soul, was friends with Bobby Mitchell. My wife used to go over to their house when she was a young girl, early teenager. They used to go to their house and she'd go swimming at the Mitchell's residence.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was a kind man, and what he did for the leukemia, lymphoma organization with his golf tournament, he was the first huge celebrity golf tournament, which was a Hall of Fame only. It had to be in the Hall of Fame to be a special guest to his tournament, and he raised millions and millions of dollars. So,
and that wasn't just NFL Hall of Famers. That was all Hall of Famers.
Right.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was each year. It was the greatest collection of Hall of Famers in one place at one time, with the exception of Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremonies.
Wow.
All right, just a few things that caught our eye, then we're going to get up out of here and let you get back to your evening. We got to give a congrats to the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team. They're currently competing in the She Believes Cup. They defeated Canada 1-0. I believe that was on Friday. And then yesterday they defeated Brazil, which is a huge soccer factory, 2-0. And they conclude their tournament tomorrow against Argentina. So we got to support the U.S. women. Not only are they great on the field, but what they stand for off the field and all the things they do for equality, women's equality, gender equality, race equality. Got to promote those young ladies. NCAA, we haven't talked a lot about it. We're going to start next week, getting a little more into the NCAA men's and women's basketball. We got to shout out Gonzaga and Baylor, the only two remaining undefeated in the men's game. And a special shout out to the University of Michigan Wolverines.
Yes.
And my man Juwan Howard,
yes,
currently ranked number 3, 16-1. They came over a huge victory over Ohio State on Sunday. Juwan in his second year is doing his thing. Mm-hmm. He brought in 3 transfers this year to fill in the gaps for his team, and they're playing great. Even after they had to shut the program down for almost 3 weeks because the whole University of Michigan campus shut down because they had an outbreak of the second version of COVID out there.
And local flavor, out of his 4 freshman class, 2 of the studs of that class is from the DMV. Mm-hmm. I don't know how Maryland let him get out, but whatever.
Since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michigan getting ready to be a powerhouse again, so be aware of that. In the women's game, the cream continues to rise to the top. You got UConn back in number 1, followed by NC State, Texas A&M, Stanford, and South Carolina. Shout out to University of Maryland women, who are currently ranked number 8 at 16-2. Brenda Freeze lost 7 people off of the team last year, 4 starters, and she's got that team to 16-2. She's got 3 transfers, making big statements for that team. And I would highly suggest, if you can catch them, they're usually either on the Big Ten Network or maybe Fox Sports 1. They are fun to watch. They play like the Golden State Warriors. They got 5 people everybody can shoot, including the centers, out to the 3-point line. Just a fun brand of basketball to watch. So she's doing her thing. And for you fight fans, Canelo Alvarez defends his WBA, WBC super middleweight titles this Saturday. Also, there's a co-main event. There's also the WBC flyweight title. That will be on the DAZN, DAZN streaming platform. If you have that or have ways to get it, check that out. That's going to be on Saturday. If you don't have that, former super middleweight champion Anthony Durrell will be fighting Karan Davis on Fox. So you got some boxing this weekend. And last but not least, I got to say the congrats to 18-year-old Ty Gibbs. And if the last name sounds familiar, that is the grandson of Hall of Famer Joe Gibbs, football and NASCAR Hall of Famer. His grandson won his first NASCAR Infinity Series race, his debut race, and he wins the Daytona Road Course race at 18 years old. So the Gibbs family doing their thing in NASCAR after doing this thing for decades in the NFL. So congrats. All right, fellas, it's time for us to get up out of here. It's time for our final post of the evening. Why don't we start you off with our special correspondent Sits this evening?
Just want to tell everybody stay safe out there. It's we're not out the woods yet. Just flowing love and just we'll get out of this, but we just gotta continue to buckle down. So,
Professor, what you got for me?
Yeah, along those same lines. Yesterday we held Sweet Hour Prayer for the more than 500,000 people who have succumbed to the coronavirus and complications. And certainly, my family knows a couple of deaths from it. So just want people to really understand that we still have a long way to go. Get your vaccines when they're available, wear your mask, stay safe, wash your hands, and just look out for one another, because we desperately need that type of leadership. And I'm glad that we can look to the White House to really finally have that at heart.
Good point. On you, Big Ed.
I just want to, again, wish everybody safe and a healthy week ahead of. I'm looking forward to finally getting into some basketball. It's a little difficult, but I'm finally at that point of no football. So looking forward to getting into some college. Let me emphasize college basketball. And again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in each and every week, or even if you don't tune in each and every week, tuning in when you have an opportunity. So we appreciate you guys.
J3.
I just want to say thank you all for your prayers and your concerns. For you all who don't know, I'm taking ownership. I was in the hospital last week for mental health. It is real. When you have signs of your body telling you things are not right, you need to get checked out. So please take it seriously. Go get that assistance that you can have. I appreciate y'all and love y'all.
Bless you, man. Bless you.
Wow, you caught me off guard with that one, J3. I just like to say, brother, when I say I'm happy to see you, damn, I'm happy to see you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Glad you're back. We will be of assistance to help you continue to get back to 100% health and be on the mends. And that brings me to my point. If this past year hasn't taught us anything, we need to look out for each other. And I know a lot of people are looking out for their family members and everything, but we also got to look out for our extended family. Your fellas, your boys that you call your brothers, that you down with, you need to check in with them. And you can't just accept, I'm good. You need a little more detail with them. So I would ask that all the fellas out there, ladies can do it too, but all the fellas, do me one favor this week. Reach out to your boys, check with them, and say, hey, man, I'm just checking up on you, see how things are going. Because we tend to hold things in, and it gets to a point where finally our bodies end up showing us what's wrong, and we have to be in situations where we're in the hospital, if we're lucky. Sometimes it ends up in a massive stroke or heart attack. So look out for each other. We got a whole lot of stress on us with this pandemic, with work, with bills, but we got to be there for each other. And if we don't look out for each other, as we've seen this year, nobody else will look out for us. So I'm going to leave it at that. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening this evening. We appreciate your time and opportunity for us to share our opinions in sports with you. We're here each and every Tuesday, 7 p.m. It may be 4 of us, it may be 5 of us, it may be 2 of us, but we're going to be here. Somebody going to be here for posts to let you in on what's going on the world of sports for the last week. So you can check us out live on Facebook and our Positional Sports YouTube channel. You can also check previous shows, check out our Facebook page, they're uploaded, and check out the YouTube channel. If you want to get in contact with us, Facebook at Positions on Sports, Twitter at Positions on SPO1. We also have Instagram, so if you want to shoot us a picture, we'd love to hear from you. But most importantly, we want to hear from you next week. So be safe, take care of yourselves, Hopefully this pandemic will end in 2021, but it's not over yet. Look out for each other, love each other. This has been the Positional Sports Talk Show. Peace.
God bless.
See you.